Does the letter E in South Africa stand for electricity? And one of the biggest trading days of this year coming up right now. Good morning and welcome, guys. I am your host, Dane van der Mast, on this beautiful Tuesday morning, the 20th of September. Guys, we have a massive week coming up in the markets. Tomorrow is potentially going to be one of the biggest days for 2022 in everything markets related, and you don't want to miss this one out. Now guys, we've done some massive upgrades to the studio environment over the past couple days, meaning we will have no more downtime, meaning we're going to have a ton more shows, a ton more amazing broadcast opportunities that we will be communicating. Now guys, there has never been a better time to get yourself a Globex 360 live account. And I'm going to give you a couple reasons why. First and foremost, cash back, meaning for every time you place a trade, Globex will give you back real money for your trades, no matter if that's a positive or a negative. In addition to that, if you have a live account, all of the special new broadcasts that we do, we will be sending you a link to join us live. You need to be a client with a live account at Globex 360. Tomorrow's massive event, I will be streaming live with those of you who have live accounts and you don't want to miss it. I'm going to give you a sneak peek this morning, coming up in a couple minutes, of why tomorrow could be the biggest day moving in the markets. Without further ado, and as always, let's jump straight into local news because we have a ton to talk about and I think you know where this is going. So let's jump straight in and let's have a look. So first and foremost on the minds and agenda of every single South African is Eskom. Doesn't matter where you look in the news, everything is currently about Eskom, guys, and things are only potentially going to get worse. Now, there is some positivity. Eskom is finally approaching the market to look at allowing people to put electricity back into the grid. However, this is a bit too late, right? Eskom is currently sitting massively overloaded in all of its spheres, right? Huge overutilization of infrastructure, catastrophic failures of infrastructure and maintenance. So this is going to continue to dominate headlines. And if you would like a solution to that, I'll be speaking about that towards the end. We have had some massive upgrades to the studio. And if you would like to get yourself out of load shedding, or at least ease the burden of load shedding, let me know in the comments down below and I'll refer you to someone who's helped us out a ton and the best possible experience we've had thus far. Now, moving into the pound really quickly, for those of you who recall last week, there was items termed that, the pound is stronger against the euros, pound is strong against the dollar. And anytime I see something like that, I'm always skeptical. That was last week. Have a look at what we're seeing this week, right? The pound was dumped ahead of this critical week against all other major currencies. So the pound is going to continue to take strain, but we will look at that in terms of our analysis. Now, looking at the stock market, looking at the market as a whole, guys, we have a massive week coming up, right? Tomorrow evening, the Federal Reserve meets to discuss and decide on the next interest rate increase, right? We know there's going to be an increase. We know that it could be anywhere between 50 and 75 basis points. However, I believe and I am of the opinion that this could be something groundbreaking. I think the Federal Reserve is backed up into a corner. 80% of economists believe that there's going to be a 75 basis point increase, while only 20% of economists believe that there's going to be a 50 basis point hike. However, I think we're going to see history made tomorrow. And again, if you'd like to trade this with me live, make sure you have a Globex 360 live account. We will be communicating with all clients. We'll be giving you a link prior to that session. I'll be live tomorrow evening, which is Wednesday, the 21st of September, just before 8 p.m. as we listen to and hear that interest rate announcement. And why is that a big thing? Why should that affect you? Guys, the last couple interest rate decisions, for those of you who remember the 15th of June as well as the 27th of July, I believe, were massive movers in the markets. I'm going to show you the effects. I'm going to show you the past moves and how this could be one of the biggest trading days, not only of this week, not only of this month, but potentially of this year. And this could set the tone for indices, it could set the tone for currencies. So we're going to be having a look at that in a second, and I'm going to use a little bit of our fundamental analysis time to dive a bit deeper into this, because obviously this is quite important. Now, the CPI data that we received last week, Tuesday, right, essentially caused the markets to fall in the region of 4 or 5%. Now, this is in fear, and when I say caused markets to fall, mostly indices fell, the dollar gained in value, right, but caused indices to fall because the belief is that there's not enough being done to curb some sort of recession, right? When we see interest rates going up, essentially that's a positive effort from the Federal Reserve to signal to investors that enough is being done in order to curb this. When we saw the CPI data, the whole market believed that we were sitting at the edge of that curve. So we'd reached the end of inflation and economies can now start to come back to normal. However, that was not the case. So tomorrow evening, the Federal Reserve sits down to give us that interest rate decision. Now, this is happening 2 p.m. ET. If you are in South Africa, that's going to take place at 8 p.m. GMT +2. And as I mentioned, if you're a Globex 360 client with a live account, I will be live with you for this broadcast, right? And it is going to be something massive. Now, in the last couple S&P 500 calls, earnings calls, a lot of listed companies have earnings calls with their investors. 240 of those calls had the words recession cited in it. So there's definitely a major fear that recession is obviously either here or coming. And so a strong hand by the Federal Reserve would have a positive impact, not necessarily on the market the way you think it will, not on the dollar, but specifically on indices, specifically on the US 30, NASDAQ, those type of items. So we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper. But just quickly, without running out of time here, just a quick look at the S&P 500 heat map. Looks fairly neutral, some gains across the board, but I think the markets today are really going to be waiting for tomorrow's interest rate announcements, right? I've gone through the data. I'm going to show you something very interesting in a second. So without further ado, I think let's jump straight into what everybody's waiting for, and that is going to be analysis. Right, now with analysis, we're going to be jumping in, we're going to be diving a little bit deeper, showing you a few more currencies. Now remember, we are starting new live sessions at 9 a.m. as well every day. Again, if you want to be a part of that, I will include everybody for a couple days this week, but from next week, if you have a Globex 360 live account, you will get a link to these live sessions beforehand. So another amazing reason of why you want to be and have a live account with Globex 360. So let's just jump straight in and let's have a look at what the dollar index is doing. So dollar index has been following pure price action. No issues there, no quarrels. But let's quickly have a look at what is busy happening on Euro USD. So Euro USD, we can see has been a long-term bear trend, and where we're currently sitting is pretty similar to where we saw last week. And this is a daily chart. So I'm going to drop down to a 4-hour. And what we were discussing last week is the fact that we hit this high, we could lose a bit of momentum, and we have. So we hit that 61.8 fib level, we've fallen back down, we've sat in a little bit of a range, and there could be the next push going to the top side. Now, should we get an interest rate decision? What does that mean, right? Should we get a 75 basis points? Should we see a historic, never before seen 100 points, which is 1% interest rate hike? What could that potentially mean? In the past, that has caused a sell-off on the dollar, right? But it's caused a rally in indices. So should we end up in an environment where we get that expected 75 basis point hike, we could expect items like Euro USD to skyrocket. And this is super important because when you have price action, we have market structure perfectly set up, and an external fundamental event that triggers and essentially makes a catalyst towards that breakout, you then are in for a perfect storm scenario. However, we would also want to look at something a little bit more attractive that has a bit more teeth on it. And for this reason, we're also going to be looking very closely in terms of USD JPY, right? USD JPY, the dollar has been dominating the yen over the past year, let's say, right? The yen has lost over 40% of its value to the dollar. A year ago this time, the yen was sitting at about 110 yen to the dollar. We're now sitting at 143 yen to the dollar, meaning why would this be important? So when we're looking at a massive external fundamental event, right, and we have a bias or we have an idea that could negatively affect one currency, we're looking for that currency that's been doing super well, and we look for a currency that's been doing really badly. So we're looking for that inverse correlation, looking for really strong currency, a really weak currency. In the event that really strong one takes a fundamental hit, it creates a massive ripple effect. And I think USD JPY is definitely going to be one of those ones we definitely want to keep our eyes on coming up for this week. So on the FX side, just quickly having a look at USD ZAR. USD ZAR, again, as we said last week, came down to the 61.8, didn't give us a lot of time to get there, and ultimately took off. So again, should we see that massive interest rate announcement, this could give us an opportunity for a pullback down to the 61.8. A weakening dollar means USD ZAR falls, a strengthening rand, and that might give us a long opportunity. Now, moving into indices, what I'd like to show you guys really quickly, and without looking too deeply at specifically USD, because I will be covering that live at 9 o'clock in a little bit from now, from the time that you're seeing this. But I want to go back and show you the last two interest rate increases. So the last interest rate increase we got on the 27th of July resulted in the next 24 to 48 hours an 8,000 pip rally, right? We got a 75 basis point hike, and we got that 8,000 pip rally. If we have a look, and this is going to be the most important, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about a perfect storm. If we just take one step back on Dow Jones, which is US 30, Dow Jones US 30 has been in this massive bear market, okay? We then pulled back and started to make an attempt for a potential breakout. But what was the catalyst for that breakout? The catalyst for the breakout was that unprecedented 75 basis point hike. Now remember, in the past, we have never had a 75 basis point hike, right? This has been one of the first times we've had a hike of that nature. In the past, it's been a 50 point basis hike. So on the 16th or the 15th of June, that never before seen 75 basis point hike essentially was the catalyst that pushed US 30, and there it is right there. And I'll zoom in really quickly. I'll go to a 4-hour time frame, right? So there's that 75 basis point hike on the 15th, and essentially pushed US 30. Markets weren't sure how to react, slight retracement, all right? And the very next day, we then get that massive rally, which is pretty much rallied all the way to the next interest rate announcement. Now, that was obviously a shock factor. Should we then see a position where tomorrow we get a full fat 75 or something unprecedented like 100 point hike, that could be another catalyst to force indices to break through towards the top side. So you definitely want to be with me live on that one. It's going to be massive. We're going to be looking at indices, we're going to be looking at currencies, and that's going to be an absolute blast. In terms of the general climate, US 30, NASDAQ, German 30 are all sitting pretty in relation to our analysis as per last week, sitting all very much in a similar position. We've pulled back, some indices have pulled back deeper to that 78.6 fib level, but in all cases, we are ready for a bull market. We're ready for that next bull leg. So indices are going to definitely be something we want to pay a little bit more attention to. Now, quickly just touching on gold. I don't have too much on gold that I'm interested in right now, other than the fact that we're starting to see that reversal. We're starting to see that bear market come to an end, and now we're starting to see these bulls coming in volume. Again, an interest rates announcement that negatively affects the dollar but positively affects indices could be a catalyst to get gold back up into structure. And again, when there's uncertainty and there's troubling times, gold will act as a safe haven. Now, moving into Brent really quickly, because this is going to be an interesting one. Brent did exactly what we were thinking last week in terms of that false move towards the downside. We ultimately were looking for buy opportunities above that $91 per barrel. However, Brent pulled back down into that 88.2. It's completed its correction. So if we have a look here, impulse to the top side, correction to that 88.2, and now we're sitting back again above that safe zone. That safe zone being that 61.8. So I'm definitely looking for longs on Brent. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper at 9 o'clock when we do some live trading, but I definitely think Brent has some legs for a long position. Now, moving into cryptos quickly, and we are going to be starting to include Ethereum. Ethereum's had its much anticipated merge last week. However, that hasn't fully translated in the charts. Now, starting off with Bitcoin really quickly, we've done that massive pullback. We've dipped below as far as $18,400 to a single coin. And Bitcoin is really looking extremely vulnerable at this point in terms of, if it doesn't make a breakout in this next couple days, we could see an extended push back down to the value proposition, as I've said over the past couple of weeks, of that $12,000 to $13,000 a coin. As many of you remember, analysts looked at the true cost, the raw cost of producing a single Bitcoin from an energy perspective, from a manufacturing perspective, from a mining perspective, and that cost, that true value, comes down to around about $12,000 to $13,000 per coin. So should it come down to that value, we're obviously going to have to wait and see. But ultimately, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a long break on Bitcoin. Okay, quickly looking at Ethereum as well, just adding that into the mix. Ethereum has already completed a much deeper pullback, a much deeper retracement down to that 78.6. And where we're currently sitting, we're sitting in a position that we have some good market structure we could start to look at on Ethereum. But ultimately, and more importantly than that, you know, it's that test of that 78.6. We had the merge, right? We had that massive merge that essentially made Ethereum more economic, more efficient to mine by a huge factor, almost 99% more power effective to mine and obviously navigate on the back of the Ethereum networks. But that is not translated into price. Now, guys, we're about to have a massive week, but the question I have for you now is how many of you would like to see cryptos available for trading weekends? Let me know down in the comments below. Would you like to trade crypto 24/7? This is something that I'm pushing quite hard for. It's something that I'm quite excited about. As we move into having more opportunities on the weekend, I'd really like to focus more and have more attention on cryptos and obviously be in a position to trade cryptocurrency over the weekend. So if you would like that, as always, let us know down below. The more comments we get, the more feedback we get from you, the better chance that that is something that we will go ahead and implement. Now, guys, listen, if you have not liked, if you have not shared this particular broadcast, do me a favor, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification icon so that you never miss a brand new upload. This week is going to be a powerful week. We don't have load shedding interruptions because of the new upgrades to the studio and the facilities that we have. So it is going to be a powerful week, and I'm super excited to be in the markets this week. So let me know in the comments down below, are you excited? What do you think the Fed is going to do? Give me some of your predictions. What is your thinking? And if you would like to see crypto traded over weekends, let me know also down in the comments below. If you're having load shedding and you want to get a little bit around the curve, let me know too, and I will link you up with someone who will get you sorted out in the most professional and cost-effective manner humanly possible. Guys, as always, remember, live safe, be safe, and do things the Globex 360 way. Until I see you all a little bit later at 9 a.m. GMT+2, stay safe.